Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for joining us this morning for this Main Street Recovery webinar. My name is Jessica Hester, and I am the Director of Operations with the St. Tammany Chamber of Commerce. Today, we do have people joining us from 7 chambers across the state, which we're really excited about. So I just wanted to say welcome to the people from Ascension, Bossier, Evangeline, St. Mary, Youngsville, and West Monroe, Ouachita Chamber. We're happy that y'all were able to join us. We love that we have people from all across the state participating today. I just want to do a couple of housekeeping things. There are Q&A buttons at the bottom, so if you have any questions, go ahead and complete it there. And this webinar is being recorded. Probably next week, we'll be able to go ahead and post it to our YouTube channel, and I'll send an email to all of our registrations. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to the staff and Treasurer Schroder, and we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you.
All right. Well, look, it's always glad to be back in St. Tammany via Zoom. I'm here in Baton Rouge and working out of my apartment as we continue our social distancing, which I just love. But it is, I am glad to at least see and talk and share some of the things going on with this program. Jessica, I appreciate you organizing the webinar. This is probably my first of about 5 today. So it's, as I've said continuously, I'm glad God invented Zoom, because it sure has made it easier to get information out and have meetings across the state all day long now. So I'm very proud that Treasury has been tasked to administer this program. You know, as a business owner, and I know I live in Covington and have been in business for many years on the North Shore and in the North Shore region. You know, I know what it is to invest your blood, sweat, and tears into your business and invest your life savings, and you shouldn't see that disappear overnight. So I give a lot of credit to the legislature for recognizing that small business is having a heck of a time surviving. And look, I fully admit this is a Band-Aid, but some aid is better than no aid. And so I give them a lot of kudos. There's a lot of conversations that go on in Baton Rouge about government and how is government going to survive this pandemic, and it's going to continue on, and lost revenue and going on and on and on. And I'm sitting back as a business guy and as your treasurer thinking, what are we going to do if business doesn't get back going? That's going to be government's biggest problem. Government doesn't quite get that if business isn't thriving, then they have no purpose. They sometimes forget who they work for. You know, government forgets that they work for we the people. So a lot of kudos to the legislature. This is part of a $1.8 billion grant that's called the CARES Act, sent down from the feds to the state of Louisiana. And then the governor and the legislature were left deciding how are they going to spend this money. Well, Louisiana is one of few states that have figured out a way how to get some money directly to business, and it's through this program. It's $275 million. And for those that don't know, there's about 457,000 small businesses across Louisiana. Our estimates from the feds is that about 70,000 of those businesses receive the PPP, something from the PPP program. And we pretty much know that businesses at this point have pretty much exhausted, especially the small businesses, have exhausted their savings, their financial relief that they did get from the feds. So this program, this grant program, comes at an awesome time. But I do tell people this is a reimbursement program, meaning you have to have related COVID expenses that you have to prove and then reimbursed. Now you're going to get reimbursed for these, and it turns into a grant. You will not have to pay this back. As long as you can prove your expenses and show them, download them, then and the auditors can see it, then you would qualify. You can get up to $15,000, and this would not have to be paid back. We hope to launch this program and let me back up for a second. The legislature came to me early on and asked me if I would run this program out of our department. I didn't even hesitate. I didn't even know what I was getting into. I just said yes. And I don't need to tell you, when you get involved in government programs, what comes along with that. And one of my little sayings that I've been saying lately is there's a lot of red tape in government, but the tape in this program is going to be clear. So my job is to get the money out the door, not create obstacles for you to come get the money. This is going to be more on the honor system. You will have to swear and attest to the information that you're given. And if you don't, and if you give false information, you're going to break the law and you face penalty, fines, and jail time. State auditor is going to be the sort of keeper of the pot. He will test on the backside to make sure that everybody is being honest. But I want to be very clear. I've instructed my team that I was not going to create a process to stop 10% of the bad people and punish 90% of the good people. So it is an honor system, and it's a first come first serve. It's a $275 million pot for the first 21 days of the program, which will launch on or before July 28th. The first 21 days will be set aside for small businesses that have received no money at all, zero, meaning you couldn't have gotten any federal aid, or you could not have received any insurance money from your personal insurance. There's also a $40 billion set aside for minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned businesses in the first 60 days. So the first 60 days of the program, if you're a minority, if you're a female, if you're a veteran, there'll be $40 million that are set aside for those type businesses. And then once that 60 days is up, then it just opens up to the big pot. I want to talk about eligibility. And Jessica, I'm not sure if you have the slides, but there's a couple. Did they send you any slides? No. Okay.
No.
Well, that all just sort of happened yesterday. We got our logo yesterday. A lot of things happened very fast. Hey, look, before I talk about eligibility, just so everybody knows, I mean, we announced who the consultant was on July 1st. I think by Thursday or Friday, everything was just rocking and rolling, and I had my first full briefing yesterday. So we are learning a lot of things every day. I mean, by Friday of this week, we're probably going to have most questions answered. And I know you will have a lot of questions today. Most I will be able to answer. Some I'll ask you to send us an email as our team still works through eligibilities and what expenses can be reimbursed. So let's talk a little bit about some of the eligibilities. In the law that passed in Louisiana, you have to be it has to be a business. Okay, you have to be a registered domiciled business in Louisiana as of March 2020, March 1, 2020. You had to have suffered some interruption in your business, which obviously almost, I don't know any business that wasn't interrupted in some way. I mean, except if you own a Winn-Dixie. Winn-Dixie did pretty well. At least 50% of that business has to be owned by one or more Louisiana residents. You had to have filed your taxes in 2018, 2019, or will be filing your taxes in 2020. Your business has to be less than 50 full-time employees. So if you're part of a company that is much larger, then you would not qualify. This is geared towards small businesses. You have to have a bricks and mortar location, and I know this will spur a lot of conversation. But as I said earlier, I'm going to be very liberal in my in how I define bricks and mortar. I define bricks and mortar as an example that if you're a sole proprietor and you have a family-run business and you run it out of your house, as long as your employees or customers come to your house, that is your brick and mortar. And the same expenses that you would claim on your taxes, those would all be related expenses that you'd be able to claim under this grant program. As I said earlier, the business cannot be bigger than 50 full-time workers, and you are considered as a sole proprietor employee. So it could be from 1 employee to 50. Some of the eligible expenses that everybody have heard about is anything that you spent while creating social distancing in your business, money that you may have spent on cleaning or disinfecting your facility on a daily basis, weekly basis, or what have you. Any equipment that you may have purchased to protect your employees or the customers, like gloves and masks and thermometers if you were testing people as they come in your business. Any credit card readers that were to protect from contact, laptops and printers and scanners that helped you facilitate teleworking. Or a lot of businesses put up tents and tables outside, especially restaurants. That would all qualify for related expenses. Things like signage that you may have had to put up. Some people installed drop-up windows. Those would be related expenses. And there's others examples that if anybody wants to run those by us, be happy to give you an answer on that. And before I go, I'll say this several times over the next hour, that go to latreasury.com. It's www.latreasury.com. Click on Main Street. Starting on Saturday, our website will go live. And David, if you wouldn't mind putting in the chat section what that website is, because I didn't write that down yesterday. I just saw our website for the first time yesterday evening. That's going to go live on this weekend, and it'll be very interactive. You'll be able to ask questions. You'll be able to sign up. And there's also going to be like a pre-test, a sort of pre-qualification that will have some of the things that I just talked about listed that you can go in and answer. And if you answer correctly, it will just pre-qualify you and tell you, well, you'll be eligible to apply. As I said earlier, the application process will start on July 27th. So let's talk a little bit about some of the business interruption costs that would qualify, any unemployment insurance costs that you may have had, paid sick leave for your employees if they had the virus during that time. Inventory replacement is a big one, especially for restaurants or facilities that had some type of inventory that might have spoiled. That would all be eligible as related cost. Increased labor costs, obviously, things like delivery drivers. I was asked yesterday, would the vehicle be, if I had to buy a vehicle, because now I had to start delivering meals or whatever, or product. You're gonna hear me say this a lot. It depends on how many questions y'all ask, but this comes up a lot in different scenarios. I would only tell you this, like later today at 1 o'clock, I will have a briefing for the statewide CPA Association, the Louisiana CPAs. I strongly encourage people to talk to their CPAs and because they've been dealing with this, they sort of know what's eligible, what's not. But I tell people the stupidest question is the one you never ask. When this application process starts, anything you believe is related, then you ask for it and make them tell you no. Which also brings me to something that's probably one of the most important things you could be doing now, between now and July 27th, is preparing your documents. Getting your documents ready, all your receipts that you believe or related expense, gather those documents, scan them and get them into your computer. And if you don't have the ability to scan, you'll have a few weeks to go find somebody who can and email them to you. You can take pictures and email them to yourself, but you're going to have to have receipts. You can't just say, I have $25,000 expenses. Well, that's not going to cut it. You're going to have to show what those expenses are. You're going to have to show the receipts for those expenses, or they will not qualify. You're not going to be able to just talk your way through an expense without showing those receipts. So some other things, big things that are going to be able to be claimed is mortgage interest and rent. You know, rent's a big deal, especially if a lot of these small businesses are renting space. And the good thing about that qualifying, it helps more than one person. It's going to help the business catch up on their rent, but it will also help those landlords who haven't been paid their rent. And that's been a big issue. The mayor of New Orleans has talked to me about that extensively, about relief for landlords. As I said earlier, my job is to get this money out the door. It's your tax dollars. We're going to be pretty liberal in our definition, but we do have to follow the law. And that's federal law that we're following. So rent, mortgage interest, payroll, utilities, all those kind of things will be eligible. Some of the commonly asked questions that I'll sort of read and just throw these out here. Nonprofits, get a lot of questions about nonprofits. Nonprofits are not eligible to apply, but religious-based businesses are, as long as they meet all the eligibility requirements. Franchises are eligible as long as you're not part of if you're part of a big franchise with a lot of employees, then you're not. It has to be less than 50 people. There is some discussion going on about if you're I can't think of one off the top of my head, but if you're a franchise here in Louisiana, and there's not many of them, will that qualify if they have one in Mississippi or wherever? That's a question that we still have to sort of sort through. And when I think it's important to understand that we are working through the things that are eligible between, and we're in conversation. In fact, I think we have a conference call tomorrow with one of the senior advisors to Congressman Scalise to make sure we fully understand what's eligible to be reimbursed, so we can make sure that we take advantage, or as much advantage as we possibly can for the program. You cannot apply more than once. So what that means is if you have already received some aid, and let's just say you had $15,000 worth of expenses, and you receive $15,000 from the feds, then you would not be eligible. But let's say you had $50,000 in expenses, and you received $25,000 in aid from the feds. Then that balance of receipts, that $25,000 balance, is eligible, and you would be eligible for a $15,000 grant from the state. And I'm sure some of you guys will have questions about that, but it's pretty simple. You just can't double dip. You can't claim the same expenses twice. I'd mentioned that if you are only employee, that if you're the owner, you still qualify technically as an employee. There's been a lot of conversations about is my salary, if I'm a sole proprietor and I'm the only employee, is my payroll eligible? We're working through that too, but if I had to make a decision today, I would say yes. I'm hoping, today's Wednesday. I'm hoping by Wednesday of next week that that we've had enough time with our consultants and the lawyers and the folks out of Washington that we can give some solid examples on our website of what is and what isn't eligible. I would ask as organizations, Jessica, and I know you have an audience from across the state today. I'm assuming these are all chambers. Yes. Yeah. So let me just tell you what my biggest challenge is going to be as the treasurer and as the administrator of the program. The legislature intended this program, and which is why the first 21 days is businesses that received no money. As I said earlier, roughly 450,000 businesses, roughly 70,000 businesses received some aid. Our goal is to get down to the bottom of the pyramid, all those mom and pop businesses, all these small businesses that employ almost 53% of the workers in Louisiana. But we also know this: a lot of those businesses are minorities. They don't are just small business that don't belong to organizations. I joke with Lacey a lot. I was a member of the board in the chamber many years ago. I'm a little old now. You can tell by my gray hair. I remember somebody coming to see me. I was probably like 29 years old, or right around 30, and they asked me to join the chamber. I looked at that person like they were nuts. I couldn't hardly afford my utility bills, much less join the chamber. And it wasn't until several years later, as I was well into my 30s, that I realized the benefit of what the chamber does for business. But small businesses that are just starting out, I mean, we're barely surviving, much less pay dues. So it has its place. So what I'm asking for the chambers now is help reaching those small businesses who aren't necessarily members of your organization today, but are the future members. Because as their businesses grow and they become more involved in their communities, and it clicks, one day it's going to click, the light bulb goes off, and you understand what the chambers do for business. But when you're first starting out, you just can't afford those types of things. Those are kind of businesses that we want to help. Not that anybody on the phone today, we don't want to help, because we do. But we got $275 million. We believe that can go to about 25 to 30,000 businesses. So we need a strong outreach. We're looking to create a network of volunteers. I have 2 conference calls, webinars later today with legislators. I'm hoping to take legislative offices across the entire state and turn them into many locations where people who don't have broadband or don't have internet, or maybe don't have the ability to scan their documents, can go someplace and get some help from those legislative offices. I've created 2 outreach committees. One's chaired by Michael Heck, I think most people know from GNO Inc. And then Kalisha Garrett, who's the executive director for the Black Chamber of Commerce. She's going to chair the minority side. Like I said, we have $40 million set aside for minorities that we only have 60 days to get that out the door. So we're looking to create a network across the state. We're turning to our chambers who can act as volunteers and facilitators possibly for anybody that might want to come in the office that's having a problem with technology and either has to print it and fill it out or scan a document and just send it through. We're going to have webinars as we find these volunteers, but it'd be nice to have a couple hundred locations across Louisiana that we can work with and partner up with to help small business. And I want to be very clear. I tell people my job as treasurer and administrator of this program is to get this money in the hands of small business owners. It's not to hire consultants. The legislature gave me about $15 million to run this program. I'm hoping to do it for less than $9. We've got some great partners who have worked very hard, and they also want to help the small businesses and have really sharpened their pencils for this program. And I'm real proud and honored to have this group working with me and our team at Treasury to get this program going. We've only really been at it about a week now, full steam ahead with our consultants. So a lot of things have happened, a lot of things accomplished in the last week. But that's about it. That's a mouthful. So in concluding, I'm happy to answer any questions. It's nice to see a bunch of people on the call. And let me just give out a little bit of information. If you have any questions, I do have my consultant who I brought on to work for Treasury. He's actually a St. Tammany resident, David Richard. So I have some backup if I can't answer all the questions. But a couple things. latreasury.com, you can go to now. If you have any questions, you can just email. You can also email us your email address and your name, and we'll add you to our database. So we will communicate with you as we're moving down the line. And before this is over, Jessica, probably the best thing what we have been doing is we'll send you an email with the email addresses to use, the website, all that kind of information that you can send out to the participants. And anybody on the line who's from Bossier and that's almost like my home away from home, call my office, call me. My personal office number is 225-342-0016. My assistant answers that phone 24/7 or pretty close to there. And we'll get right back to you. You can email us, you can call us, whatever, you feel like you need to call me personally and you want to talk to me late at night. My cell phone number is 985-373-4873. And I'm happy to field those calls. Just know that I'm getting a lot, and it's hard for me to talk on the phone during the day because I'm doing these webinars all day long, well into the evening times. But I will get back to you within 24 hours. With that, I think that's it. Jessica, I'm happy to get into my favorite part of the questions.
Okay, well, I know y'all been doing a good job at answering a lot of these questions as we've been going through. Someone asked about, and we said nonprofits are not eligible. They were asking about 501c6s, if they're eligible, because as a chamber, we're part of that. We're classified as a civic organization.
Yes, they are not eligible.
Okay, and then this program is designed strictly. That's sort of why it's the Main Street Recovery Program. It's designed for bricks and mortar, storefront type small businesses. As I said earlier, first 21 days, businesses that have received no aid. But nonprofits, and I don't think, and David can either answer or send it in chat, I don't think the law specifies the type of nonprofit. I think the law says nonprofits are not eligible. Okay. We have another question regarding unemployment insurance payments. If they receive them from the Workforce Commission, is that considered aid and would disqualify them?
I would assume yes at this time, but that would be a good email to send to us, and we can clarify, David, unless you know that question now.
I think I think I do know the answer to that. So if a person received unemployment insurance benefits from Louisiana Workforce Commission, inclusive of the federal assistance on that, I don't believe that would preclude somebody from making claims, eligible business claims. So that's more for employees and how they got paid. And maybe I don't understand the question so much.
Well, the person who asked it, I do know her. She works for the Workforce Commission. And I
Okay.
guess that they're basically saying is if you're a business owner and you received unemployment, which a lot of sole proprietors did,
Okay.
are they still eligible for this program?
Yes, that would be for their person. So they personally made a claim against the Workforce Commission. That's separate from running their business. So if their business incurred expenses for public health compliance measures, you know, the disinfectant, cleaning, and so forth, plus their rent, plus utilities and anything else where they couldn't operate their business as a result of Corona, but they still had ongoing expenses, we want to reimburse them for those expenses.
Right, and let me add this too, Jessica. So you remember I said you can't double dip. So let's just say that that person is a sole proprietor, a single employee. If you received aid on unemployment, then obviously you can't turn around and claim your salary in this program. But as David said, everything else is eligible.
Thank you. Now, we did have somebody saying that they wanted to offer, they'd offered their facility for people who don't have the resources. What's the best way to reach out to y'all to offer those resources?
So is this the one I'm reading? We sent the treasurer's office an email?
Yes.
Yeah, so, you know, we are in a transition between the treasurer's office fielding phone calls and emails to the consultant. I would, Faith, I would ask you to call Sarah at this phone number at 225-342-0010. Ask for Sarah and make sure she has your information, where you want to volunteer, your facility. We, you know, one of the bad thing about chats is capturing all the, I mean, yesterday in one of our webinars, we must have had 50 something questions. So Zoom, and there may be, I'm not aware of it, have some way to print the questions, because once you leave the meeting, you don't have the questions anymore. So if you have some input or some locations that you want to volunteer, call my office, 225-342-0010, and ask to speak to Sarah. We only have one, and she is capturing all that information. Now, when our website goes live Saturday, you'll be able to go into that website, send information, and our consultant, who is a big company out of Baton Rouge, will be answering these calls and emails daily.
Okay. Thank you. We did have somebody else asking questions, and I know we addressed this. Just go ahead and review, because I think this is probably what most people ask, is that they've received a PPP loan, that they are eligible for if they have expenses that were not covered under that PPP loan, they can apply for this, correct?
That's not true. So it works this way. In the first 21 days of the program, you can only get an award if you're only eligible for an award if you haven't had any expenses paid, reimbursed from the feds. What I tell people is, on day one, apply. And then the system's going to sort. If you have already received some aid, it will put you in a column. If you haven't received any aid, you'll go into this column. They will process that, and that will move along. And once we get to that 22nd day, the IT system, it will be on a first come, first serve. So as you came into the system, you will be the first one up. But you are eligible to have receipts reimbursed as long as it's more than what you had received from the feds already. You can't double dip. Now, I know a lot of people that just got $1,000. So you'll have to wait to get past the 21 days, but all your expenses will be eligible. minus the $1,000. That answer, hopefully that answers your question.
I believe that does. And I'm waiting. We've gone through all the questions. I'm waiting to see if we get any more. And
Jessica, feel free to go back through the ones that I've answered. Since you're recording this live for later broadcast, maybe those folks might not see it.
Yes. We got another one that came in. Let me see. Oh, they wanted to know, what is the date range for expenses?
Well, that's from March 1st to the day you send in your claim. So whatever day you send your claim in, you have to be able to prove those expenses. It can't be something you expect to buy. It had to be something that you paid for already. Now, we get a lot of questions about rent and what's an incurred cost. I'm leaning towards ruling that if you owe rent, let's just say, March, April, May, June, July, 5 months, you've only paid 3 months worth of rent. The 3 months of rent is eligible, but I also believe the 2 months of rent that you owe is eligible. You'll have to upload a lease or something, and we're still working through these details, but you owe that money. You incurred the expense. You just haven't had the money to pay for it yet. So that's one way, one of the things that I'm looking at that would help landlords as well. So you're not only helping business, small business, but you're also helping landlords out in the real estate business. So that's one of the few areas where we see where you didn't actually write the check yet, but you owe that money. Your lease and you owe it to the landlord, and this program can help you catch up on your rent.
Okay. One of the questions was, when is the last day to apply?
The last day to apply, your application has to be in by December 1st. This program basically ends on December 1st. With whatever's in the pipeline will get processed, but after December 1st, the money returns to the state to use how they feel.
And then somebody was asking, if they pay our lease while we are closed, we used our personal money to pay the lease. Can that be reimbursed?
Absolutely. Leases, rents, that's all reimbursable expenses. Definitely. And I'm just flipping back through some of the questions. Do we have any new ones?
Well, this is one I just want to clarify. Someone is asking about the number of employees, which is 50. Is that 50 total or 50 full-time? 50
full-time employees or less, you would qualify. If you have 51, you wouldn't qualify.
And what if some of them are part-time?
Yeah, so full-time equivalent employees, which would include your independent contractor type 1099 workers and your temporary labor. So if you added up all the heads and you equivalated them to full-time workers, then test that final number. It's 50 or less, you qualify. If it's more than 50, your business is too big for this program.
And then we have another question asking, when will the businesses be seeing funds if they are approved?
Yeah, that's an important question. So it's once your application is approved, then it will be within 10 days that the check is cut, and you should receive that. I mean, we're pretty good at Treasury. I always give a little plug for unclaimed property, especially to businesses, because they don't typically go and check for unclaimed property. But I have a lot of businesses at the state that are owed money for unclaimed property, millions and millions of dollars. So when you're on our website, check unclaimed property too, and then punch your business in. But these checks will go out within 10 days of your application being approved.
Someone's asking, can you claim future lease expenses, like knowing you'll have that debt through December?
No, these are expenses that you have incurred. And as I said earlier, I believe if you have a lease and you pay, let's just say you paid your rent in July, but you didn't pay June. I believe that that is an expense, and that's a reimbursable expense, the month of June that you owe. But this won't apply for future future months. This is up to the day that you make your claim. You have to show an actual receipt, a lease, or something. This is not going to be, hey, I have $20,000 in expenses. Well, you're going to have to show that you have $20,000 expenses. And right now, Jessica, I've had this conversation with all the different groups. So I'll have one here, not to open up a can of worms. But we are looking hard at trying to figure out a way to get some amount of money for lost income. And that's really what my conversation is with Congressman Scalise's office. How can we find a way to do lost income? We don't have that answer, and if the program kicked off today, lost income would not be included. But we're working with the lawyers. We're looking at what other states are doing and comparing what Louisiana's fixing to do. And we're going to keep looking until I can't look anymore. Once the program starts, obviously, then that effort will cease. But we get asked a lot about that. But right now, this is strictly a reimbursement program. It is a grant. You won't have to pay it back, but it is a reimbursement program. You have to show your receipts, and if they're eligible, you'll get reimbursed. But I also tell people this: send them in. The worst thing they can do is say no. You know, the accountants that are looking at it, and these will all be qualified people in Louisiana that answer the phone calls, that not grade, but look at the applications. They're all accountants, and they're sitting in a big building in Baton Rouge. Well, I say that under normal situations, they're sitting in a big building in Baton Rouge. They may be sitting in their living rooms, but so anyway, that's I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. We have another question asking, does it include loss of payroll for self-employed?
Loss of payroll. It's a reimbursement for payroll. So if you're paying your employees, then that's eligible. I believe if you're paying yourself, that's eligible. I'm not sure what you mean by loss payroll.
That was the way the question was worded.
Yeah.
So,
but payroll is an eligible expense.
And so if you're self-employed and you're on payroll and you're on the payroll, that is an eligible expense.
Yeah. So I mean, yesterday we got several questions about the LLCs and K1s, and those are some things that we're going to have to sort of look through. Happy if you want to send us an email if you're a sole proprietor or LLC and you get paid a K1. I know how that feels because that's how my businesses are. I get paid at the end of the year. We haven't quite figured that out yet. That came up yesterday.
Okay. So I was looking to see if we have any more. Let's see, I don't have any more coming in right now. I think you've been very informative. You've given us a lot of information. I'm just looking to see if there's anything else we need to talk about. Let's see. Well, that looks like all the questions. John, can you go ahead and repeat the information, how people can get in touch with you?
And David has the new emails and website and all that, so I'll let him answer that. I think he does.
David, we can't hear you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The new website is not live yet, so I can't give out the web address. We will direct traffic to the state treasurer's website, which is www.latreasury.com. And on that webpage, you'll see the link to the Main Street page. And today it works. You'll go there and look at frequently asked questions and lots of information there, and a place for you to put your email if you want us to stay in touch with you. So we'll be blasting out emails between now and go live date, including go live date, giving the folks an update so that they don't have to keep coming back to the website. This Saturday, we will launch a new website that'll be informative and comprehensive. It'll even have a little quiz that you can take if you'd like to find out if your business is eligible. The key dates to remember are, as of now, we think we're going to be live on July 28th. We're hoping to beat that date. So that would be day 1. Day 21 from that date is August 18th. That is for everyone who didn't receive assistance from the federal government. That's when their applications will be eligible to be reviewed. It'll be on a first come, first served basis, of course. So the one question we get often is, well, if I've got PPP or EIDL, can I still apply June 29th or 30th? And the answer is yes. We hope to have the computing resources and the capacity to take everybody's application during that first few weeks. And then day 60 is September 25th. By that date, we hope to have expended at least $40 million of the $275 million on women, veteran-owned, and minority-owned businesses. That was mentioned in the law. And then the last date is December 1st is the last date we'll receive new applications for the program.
So looks like another question. When will the business begin seeing funds if they are approved? So once your application is approved, a check will go out within 10 days.
Yes.
And we're pretty confident that will happen very easily. Actually, we have refined check writing to where it's almost instant. So that's not going to be the problem at all. Getting money out. We don't expect to have any problems with that at all.
Another question would be, how long is it going to take for my application to be approved? And the answer to that, I would say, is it depends on how clean and easy your application is. So if you said, I'm claiming for these cleaning supplies and we see the receipts and it all adds up, and I'm claiming for rent and we see some proof of that you've paid the rent or a copy of your lease and the two tie together, and I'm claiming for utilities, and it's real easy and clean for somebody to see, and they hit everything looks clean, boom, approved. If they have questions because you didn't supply supporting information, they're going to call or write you back via email and ask you, hey, we're looking at your application now, can you give us some clarity on this so we can try to pay you as much as possible? Also, the other words would be claim more than $15,000 if you have that ability. So if you've got $23,000 worth of legitimate COVID-related expenses that your business suffered that haven't been reimbursed by commercial business interruption insurance or assistance from PPP or EIDL, go ahead and claim it all just in case something is disqualified. We still got room to give you the maximum grant of $15,000.
So there's a couple more questions from John. Are proceeds and a grant to be used retroactively or moving forward? So this is these are the easiest way for me to say this to be consistent is this is for expenses that you've already incurred. It can't be future. It has to be the day of your application, expenses that you've incurred prior to application. And then you asked about expenses paid to 1099 labor eligible. Yes, as long as they're COVID related and you can prove that, you'll have to have receipts and things like that to have that reimbursed. Let's see.
If I could add one more thing, Mr. Treasurer. On the website that we're building now, we're going to be advertising to the public the spend rate. So we're going to show you, so far we've had this many applications come in, we've approved this much, this is how much money is going out of the door, so that you have a sense of just how fast this is moving, and you can gauge yourself. We're going to be as transparent as possible. Also, I believe that businesses that do receive money from this program, that'll be public information, the business name and how much they got.
So there's a question, but no churches. Religious organizations are eligible according to the law. I'm not real sure what that means to be exactly honest. We're going to have to define what that means, religious organizations. And if Blake, if you would send us an email, we'll hit you back with an answer to that. We may not know it today. That might be one of those things we have to clarify, because nobody has asked me that, believe it or not, of the hundreds of questions I've gotten so far specifically about a church, but it does say religious organizations. So I would only assume that was yes, but I think we need to clarify what religious organizations mean. The webinar is being recorded, and I'm assuming that on the chamber website that you'll be able to go and watch that. So I see somebody, Margaret, you asked that question. But I think that's it. That's all the questions that I see. I see Ms. Lacey has joined us.
Yes. Thank you, John, for joining us this morning and spreading the word. I want to give kudos, shout out to Jessica. She's our guru, and I think all the chamber professionals that are on the line are aware of this. When someone says to you, let me know how I can help, we don't forget that. So I did visit the Capitol one day during this session, and I did run into our state treasurer on purpose, and he said, let me know how I can help. And so the next day, you know, I have to sleep on these things. I said, let's get it straight from the top, and let's offer it to chambers around the state. So we are very proud of you. Yes, his humble beginnings does include a stint on our chamber board, and we really need good leaders at all levels. Now, as a statewide office holder, yesterday we had our legislative wrap up. It was the first one that we held virtually. We had all 10 of our legislators. It was a very positive message, and I think things are really changing at the state capitol in a positive way. I will quote our state senator, Beth Mizell. She said this was the first session, even though she missed all of us and lobbyists being there. She said it was the first session when it was over, she did not feel gut punched. So there's a lot of reaching out between the two houses, between the parties, and I think John has been a leader in the legislature and now as our state treasurer. So we are all dealing the best we can, and this grant program is a great opportunity. I know I have been in this profession for 30 years, but I've been repeatedly asked, is there any grant money? Is there any grant money? And the answer has always been no. Well, now, post-COVID, hopefully during COVID, the answer is yes. So we thank you, John, David, your whole staff, the other chambers for joining us. This video will be placed on our chamber YouTube channel, and we encourage other chambers to share it out to their members. So again, thank you for joining us. Have a great Wednesday, and stay safe. Wash your hands, wear your mask, and social distance.
Thank you, Lacey. And I know we have other chambers, so if you would like to do this with your chamber members, just call my office. I think I gave my personal numbers, 225-342-0016. And I do them all day long, so what's another one? So just, if you'd like to participate, just give us a holler. We'll be happy to help.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to end the meeting, and again, wish you all a great day and good luck.